Welcome back. You're still watching Cheche, the show where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV. And just before the break, we were discussing a lot about the challenges. But now Kenya's tourism sector is the second largest foreign exchange earner after tea. It is currently navigating a number of significant issues that are proving challenging to its growth, ranging from security concerns to taxation. Jimmy Kariuki, chairman of the Kenya Tourism Board, is our guest this morning. Just before the break, of course, we discussed the state of the industry and the major challenges facing it. But Mutegi Njau, you had a burning question for Kariuki.
About a number of years ago, some companies, particularly foreign company, I remember one called Pakistan, which I wrote stories about when I used to nation. They would have their tourists come here, but they pay in America. When they come here, they pay in local currency. So the dollar never came here. I don't know whether that trend has stopped.
You know, Mutegi, I can't comment about how that money is being transferred between organizations, but what I can say with confidence is that the packages that are paid for overseas, those services are provided here in Kenya, so that money needs to come back. Now, in terms of whether they pay in dollars or whether they pay in shillings, I think we've liberalized, our payment procedures. So if somebody wants to pay you in dollars, they pay you in dollars. They want to pay you in shillings, they'll pay you in shillings. They want to pay you in euros, they'll pay you in euros. So really, I don't believe that the currency within which they pay really matters, because at the end of the day, we, for example, as organizations, we pay our commitments in shillings. So we pay our salaries in shillings, we pay our utility bills in shillings. So at the end of the day, we are earning more shillings, especially when the Kenya shilling depreciates. So I believe that, to me, that's not a major issue.
But if you go to some countries, as a foreigner, you will not be allowed to pay in local currency. You have to come with the foreign exchange.
Well, not exactly.
The Ethiopia country just go there.
Many countries actually you have to pay in their local currency. For example, if you go to South Africa, you must pay in South African rands. Either they can convert it back to you, they can convert it for you back to dollars or whatever else you want, but everything is done in South African rand. If you go to countries like India, everything is done in the rupee. If you go to Ethiopia, if you go to Dubai. So, I think paying in Kenya shillings is a good thing, because that's our currency. And that's what we trade in, and that's really what we make our local payments in. So I think we are actually adopting a best practice. If you go to the US, you pay in dollars. You go to Canada, you pay in Canadian dollars. You go to the UK, you pay in pounds. So I think it's not really abnormal that payments are made in shillings in Kenya. Yeah.
Yes, Bonchos.
Bwana Kariuki, 56% bed occupancy is domestic tourism. From your figures. You seem to be so focused on 44% that is foreign. What are you doing to sustain the 56% that is local tourism, in terms of encouraging them, motivating them, and such like that?
Yeah. I think one thing that's important to recognize is that tourism, though very important for your local market, is also an export product. Tourism is an export product, just as tea is, just as coffee is. And you can't really turn around and say, okay, now we want to increase the number of, or we want to sell more tea in Kenya, so therefore, let's focus on getting more Kenyans to drink tea. You still have to remember it's an export product, just as tourism is. However, having said that, we are actually focusing quite a bit on the domestic market, and I think a lot of the activities that have been carried out by the Kenya Tourism Board and the private sector has actually been what has driven that growth. So, for example, more affordable packages. In fact, next week we're launching a campaign to promote affordable packages in the media, which we're partnering with the private sector. A lot more educational and familiarization trips with the media to make sure that they have adequate information to communicate to Kenyans. A lot more trainings. In fact, next week we're also doing quite a number of trainings in the counties, with travel agents and small tour operators in the counties, to encourage them to focus a lot more on the domestic market. In terms of our budget, we've allocated quite a bit of our budget, marketing budget, to the domestic market. And in fact, the Kenya market and the East Africa market are grouped in our core markets, which are with the likes of India, with the likes of China. Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Ethiopia are very much a part of that core marketing strategy. So really we are focusing on the domestic market. It's a very important market. We recognize it as an important market, and we're going to continue to develop that market and move the perceptions away from it being a filler market when business is not there. It is not a filler market. It's a high potential captive market, and that's really the position that we've taken as the Tourism Board.
Now, you mentioned the much work you're doing with the county governments, and I'm just wondering, because we're coming from an era of where everything was centralized, now that we're seeing some of these tourism products now run under the county governments, how much of business has that changed?
I think in terms of where we are now, I think the positive thing is that every county government has a tourism executive. So therefore, they've got a focus on tourism. They have a tourism agenda. In terms of, are they developing products fast enough? Are they communicating what they have effectively enough? No. And that's where the Kenya Tourism Board comes in to say, look, you have these products, you have these underutilized parks, you have these underutilized adventure activities. Let's work together so that we can support you in packaging and putting these together so that you can effectively communicate the benefits of your counties. So if, for example, we're talking about Kisumu County, there's all these beautiful islands that are there that are underdeveloped, and there's a big opportunity to develop these different islands, into really great and different products. Whether you go to the Coast Province, the Coast Province is more than just the beach. There's a lot of culture, there's a lot of history, whether you're talking about places like Fort Jesus, which is a sleeping giant. There's a lot of history, Rabai, the Gedi ruins. There's so much that needs to be packaged. So really our role as the Kenya Tourism Board is saying, look, why don't we work together? You put together the packages. We will support you. We'll give you direction on how you package your different county products. We will support you by communicating those. And if you want to come and do joint activities with us locally, where we'll come and do road shows, we will do it with you, because the impact is the impact of domestic travel is very important, because you get to appreciate the different cultures. You get to participate in the purchase of different activities, whether it's restaurants, whether it's curio shops. So the trickle-down effect is tremendous. And if you can mention, which are some of these new products, tourism products, that have come to the fore after the advent of devolution? Right now, it's more about seeing how we can, improve on the existing product. In terms of, new products that have come up, I think we do have historical products like Gedi Ruins, for example, which has been there but has sort of not been communicated about. Are you seeing an improvement in terms of maybe development of that? Absolutely. In fact, I was there about 2 months ago, and I had taken a group of journalists, and the curator there was quite positive in terms of the number of visitors who are now visiting Gedi Ruins, because now it's being communicated, there's more communication about, that from the county level. At a county level. Yes. I think there are numerous other activities that are in the pipeline. In terms of, has there been a major launch of any major tourism products in the county? Is not there, but there's a lot in the pipeline, and this is where the engagement levels between us, the Kenya Tourism Board, and the counties, where we're stepping these up, because we need to make sure that we're going out with newer and more exciting products that are linked around adventure, family travel, etc. So there's a lot there's items in the pipeline, but has there been anything that has been launched majorly? No.
Are you playing any significant role as far as advisory is concerned to the government on tourism policies, so that you can be able to determine or advise the government on how much money to allocate to tourism in the counties? Absolutely.
The Kenya Tourism Board is always involved in lobbying and also in meetings with the national government, with Parliament, through either directly or through our parent ministry, and we played a significant role in making sure that the budgets that we are allocated are significant. We have played a major role together with the private sector in terms of communicating the incentives that are required in the tourism industry. So we are definitely at the forefront of engagement and lobbying government directly and through through our parent ministry. So we do have a seat on the table.
You mentioned one of the avenues used for your communication is Kenya Airways.
Yes.
Kenya Airways is currently having serious challenges. How is that affecting you?
Well, Kenya Airways continues to to connect Nairobi to numerous destinations. I don't want to comment, about their financial performance because, I'm not a spokesman of Kenya Airways, and I think they need to comment on that. But in terms of flight connectivity, Kenya Airways is still connecting Nairobi to, over 54 destinations around the world. Kenya Airways still brings the most number of travelers into Kenya. So we are taking advantage of that. They still have their offices overseas, so we are working with them in their offices. They still have flights flying out to the key destinations, to Nigeria, to China, to South Africa, to Uganda, to Rwanda. So as far as we are concerned, the Kenya Tourism Board, and as far as we're concerned as a tourism destination, Kenya Airways is still a very, very major player that we can synergize with, our national carrier, our national marketing tourism board. So we are very focused on continuing to work with Kenya Airways.
Well, Kariuki, without even mentioning the figures about Kenya Airways and their financial performance, are you really saying that the sector has not been affected at all by Kenya Airways' fortunes?
First of all, I just want to reiterate that, we, as a Kenya Tourism Board, we do support our national carrier. In terms of has it affected the numbers into the destination, yes, from some of our traditional source markets, it has, but it has also affected positively from the emerging markets. So, for example, Nigeria numbers have gone up. Those numbers are not going up through road travel or any other airline bringing these passengers to Kenya. It's Kenya Airways. South Africa numbers have gone up. Kenya Airways has 2 or 3 flights a day, between Nairobi and Johannesburg. They've recently introduced a flight between Cape Town and Nairobi. If you look at Uganda, the number of arrivals into Uganda are being brought by Kenya Airways. But it could look at India. Yeah. The only direct flight that comes in from Mumbai to Nairobi is Kenya Airways. You can get here through Dubai.
Could be argued that most of these flights are just stopovers and not really visitors coming into the country for holiday.
Well, we don't count transit passengers as arriving passengers. So therefore, the 14% growth that we've seen year on year wouldn't be significant, and the large growth that we're seeing from these different markets wouldn't be there if these passengers were actually not stopover passengers. So we're not counting transiting passengers, we're counting stopover passengers. So it's passengers who come out, utilize the facilities of a hotel or of a safari, and spend money in the destination. Those are the numbers that we're counting. We're not counting transiting passengers.
So you're therefore saying that we get a good number of tourists from Nigeria who come to holiday in Kenya?
Absolutely. Yes, we do. We do get a lot more tourists who are coming from Nigeria, because the Nigeria tourism product is not as developed as the Kenya tourism product. And I think the activities that have taken place in the past, where we've had state visits, which the tourism sector has been very much a part of, working again with the Kenya Airways office in Nigeria, and also working with our embassy in Nigeria, is definitely paying off. So all these numbers are actual people coming out. And remember, tourism also is not only just defined by holiday. Tourism product is defined by numerous activities. So even a business traveler who's coming to the destination is a business, there's an opportunity there for tourism. A conferencing client or conferencing delegate is also part of the tourism product. So all those have seen positive growth. 14% growth we've seen in the conferencing market, for example. So I think all signals are heading in, are heading in the right direction. And I'm positive that we're going to continue with this trend.
And the tourist would only be satisfied upon getting good service.
Absolutely.
What are you people doing at the board to ensure that private developers in the sector and everything take good care of their employees, so that they do not serve tourists when they are disgruntled, when they are underpaid, when they are overworked, and such like things? I know you're not a trade union, but that has a direct impact on the number of tourists.
Absolutely, and I think the hospitality industry themselves, for example, the hoteliers, are very highly driven by customer feedback from channels like TripAdvisor. And TripAdvisor today has become very, very important, because anybody traveling looks at TripAdvisor ratings and looks and reviews and looks at what are people saying. So that has become a very, very important measure for the industry. But of course, we continue to encourage the industry to make sure that, you know, their service standards, you know, are of a high level, and that we are also benchmarking our service standards against the best, and not just carrying on things the way they used to. You know, issues around, you know, discrimination, you know, yes, they do exist in certain very isolated cases, but more now than ever before, and especially because of the growth in domestic travel. I think a lot of hotels are very, very, very accommodating and very welcoming to Kenyans. I think sometimes, which is a good thing, they are a lot more welcoming to Kenyans than they are to foreigners. But, you know, why not? This is our country. Let's be welcomed with much larger open arms than, you know, we do welcome visitors. But, you know, I think a lot of those issues are issues of the past.
Okay.
What about the coast, the beaches and the advisories on terrorism? How is that?
Yeah, you know,
improving. Is it improving?
It is. You know, I mean, travel advisories are, you know, unfortunately have a very devastating effect on an economy, and it's unfortunate that some of the traditional tourism destination providers are very quick to slap travel advisories when issues that are global affect a destination. You know, whereas I'm sure you've all seen it as a destination. We stand by a lot of these countries, and we've seen acts of terrorism that go beyond Africa. We've seen them in Europe. You know, we've seen them in North America. So really, you know, we need to change the way, I think the traditional source markets need to change the way they address issues of terrorism, which are global. Because what terrorists do is that terrorists appreciate that tourism is very important to many, many destinations. So they go after your infrastructure. So they go after your airports, they go after your hotels, they go after your restaurants. And, you know, they hurt your infrastructure. So for me, when the international or these traditional source market governments slap travel advisories, what you're doing is you're handing terrorists victory on a plate. So, you know, we're encouraging them, and we are engaging a lot with them, and numbers are slowly picking up. Mombasa was very hard hit, but numbers are slowly beginning to pick up. We're engaging a lot, particularly with, I must say, the British High Commissioner has been very, very supportive of the coast and of the tourism sector, and we're continuing to engage to make sure that actually we're not being labelled as unsafe, because that way, who can guarantee your safety today?
Yes.
Nobody.
There used to be periods when you used to have a lot of ships bringing tourists here, very expensive and luxurious
cruise
ships,
ships,
coming to the coast. I don't think I've heard of them any.
Apart from military ones, actually. The biggest number we get today is military.
Actually,
I think there are 3 Japanese.
That have adopted in. But surprisingly, well, the one thing I want to say is that we've had a massive growth in tourist visitor cruise ships into Mombasa. This year alone, we've had 1,800 passengers that have arrived on cruise ships. And there's also a major project that's taking place at KPA to upgrade the cruise ship berth that's being supported by Trademark East Africa together with the Kenya government. So definitely there's a massive opportunity, and we've seen a lot more cruise ships coming into Mombasa. But there's definitely a huge opportunity to develop that sector a lot more, you know, in terms of not just international cruise ships, but even cruising within Africa. You know, we have a great opportunity to cruise around Africa, you know, stop in Mombasa, stop in Zanzibar, stop in, you know, all the way down to Cape Town. So that opportunity does exist.
Okay, we're about to take another short break. When we return, we'll be discussing matters of pricing. Are the tourist products in Kenya too expensive? That and a lot more in a short while.